topic is key resilience issues for supply chain planners. My guest today is Jeff Livingston. He is Senior Solutions Consultant with QAD Dynasys. Hello, Jeff.
And good afternoon, Bob. It's a real pleasure to be with you here today. Thank you.
So, Jeff, there's been a lot of talk lately, a lot written in recent months about the subject of supply chain resilience. What does resilience mean to you from a planning perspective?
Yeah, that's a popular topic these days, right? The resiliency planning. And from a planning perspective, it's a simple, more layman's term, I guess, is having a business that is able to respond to unexpected events and respond in such a way that they have the agility and flexibility to get back to normal fairly quickly, leverage their pre-planning, if you will, and get back to normal times, and maybe even respond to take advantage of the opportunity to even improve or be better. Greater performance from it.
Because you know what they say about the best laid plans, that planning is almost the opposite of reality sometimes. So the question is, can your planning function deal with what actually happens? It may not have been included there. Well, let's take, for example, say that a company's revenue sources, they've switched channels overnight, or there's been a sudden spike in orders. How can a company stay agile enough to fulfill its ongoing service requirements and hit its goals?
Yeah, that's pertinent right now, especially, right? We've seen some COVID-19 disruption for a lot of customers right now. Kind of a current example, there's some folks that I've talked to recently, a food company that has seen major disruption from COVID-19. Their business planning, they had just recently in the last year and a half or so implemented a demand and supply chain planning tool to do the rest in OP and have that visibility and collaboration capability, scenario planning capability react. Their story right now, as we talk with them, is the planning solution saved them during COVID-19. That ability to sense and respond. Their business changed dramatically, right? So they're a food business. They have a restaurant and food service line that you can imagine kind of went to nothing as people stopped eating out, except they said, God bless that McDonald's and some other fast food chains kept some of their products on the shortlisted menu to supply that. And then their grocery channel, their grocery business went through the roof as people started eating more at home, and they were struggling to keep the Krogers and the Walmarts of the world stocked up. But the ability to replan and change capacity to shift the production to different lines, different facilities, allowed them to rebalance and keep the revenues coming in and meet the service levels.
Yeah,
nice story.
Yeah, it's interesting. You just cited a company that had both types of opposite effects in the pandemic, and that's fascinating. You clearly cannot come up with a plan and then expect it to play out as planned, so to speak. How important is it to be able to come up with, in the case of this food company, to be able to come up with, say, so-called what-if scenarios that allow you to look at possible avenues and eventualities and then be able to be ready for whatever comes down the pike in reality?
Yeah, that scenario planning is critical, right? It's those scenarios. So, your topic is really pertinent because scenario planning is really evolving, right? When people first started thinking about responding in scenarios, it was usually to the short-term types of things around, I've got that hot order, that demand spike, and how do I respond in the short term and replan around meeting that hot demand. Mm-hmm. But today's scenario planning tools allows you to be a little more strategic, allow you to think ahead, align more with the strategic plan, and start to pre-plan for some of these lesser known, if not the black swans, or at least the gray rhinos out there, right? And start to think about, here's something that could happen, might happen. Can we have a plan ready? Can we at least simulate that? Do a little stress test of how we're, at least have some level of preparation, because you're right, no plan withstands that first hit with the enemy, right? It's always a replan from there, but at least you have some preparation.
Yeah, and to be able to pivot to the point where it's almost a question of a blurring of the lines between planning and execution. Because if you're planning on such a short time horizon, at that point, you're simply scrambling to meet actual demand. And the word planning, it almost becomes irrelevant. It becomes an execution kind of discipline, does it not?
Oh, you're exactly right. And Bob, that kind of takes me back. I'm kind of an old guy. I've been in this space for about 30 years now, right? My first experience going back to this type of planning, shocking events. Back in 1989, I was working for a big clinical diagnostics chemical reagent biotechnology company out in California. And we had a big reagent plant down in Puerto Rico. And in 1989, didn't Hurricane Hugo blow through there and completely wipe that out, right? And fortunately, at that time, I was working for a pretty progressive company. This company took planning seriously. Back in 1989, they had already invested in a mainframe version of a leading planning solution. S&OP was already a cycle. We were doing monthly S&OP meetings to kind of prepare for this. So back in 1989, this company was kind of a leader, I think, in the space. What was impressive was that capacity from Hurricane Hugo went down for 8, 9, 10 weeks. It was the pre-thinking. This company being a California-based company, they already had a disaster recovery plan for what happened if an earthquake hit California. Everybody in California plans for the earthquake. So when it came time for what happens for a hurricane, they were able to kind of quickly adopt that earthquake plan, not so much for how to replace California capacity, but now switch and use California capacity to kind of plan for replacing the Puerto Rico capacity. They did 3 things. They were able to have enough capacity in there. Again, it was a life sciences company, so they were global. They had some capacity in Ireland, some capacity in California. And they were also innovative enough to be able to partner with a competitor. They had a supplier of theirs that did generic versions of their reagents and competed with them. They were able to actually leverage some of their capacity during that crisis to kind of help them make some product and meet demand.
So well, it's not specifically planning for an earthquake versus a hurricane. The generic idea of a disrupted supply line is what those things have in common. And other than the particularity of the region, it's basically the same exercise scrambling to adjust.
Exactly. And it's that when you talk about resiliency planning, you need to be resilient through any event, so whether it's a hurricane, earthquake, something's going to happen somewhere. Yeah. And having your assets diverse out there really helps respond.
Okay, well, Hurricane Hugo, as you say, 1989, is that right? What's the difference between how a modern day planner might react to a similar type of disruption versus his or her 1989 counterpart?
Yeah, you've hit on a topic near and dear to me, right? I was the planner back then in 1989, right?
Oh, okay, but you're the planner. Well, in a way, you're here now too, so you can see that. So, what is the difference?
Right, exactly. So back then, the number crunching was the same. We had good forecasting and optimization and the calculations and all those, for the optimization. The numbers were great, but it was that ability to take those decisions and communicate and share the information and truly collaborate. Those were the challenges. It was still, the Excel spreadsheet with the email and the phone call. And today, the technology that's out there, systems on the cloud with internal collaboration, being able to share that information real time, in-memory processing, taking the latency out, and still having that visibility across the organization just speeds the reaction time. It's time to reaction that really matters. And boy, that's just been expedited tremendously, right?
Yeah, interesting difference. Of course, the technology has come a long way in that time. Money is extremely important. Financial crises can emerge from supply chain disruptions as well. And I'm wondering if you have any stories to tell about a CFO in a similar type of situation and how crisis-driven adaptations might have arisen from a financial perspective.
Yeah, Bob, another really nice scenario, I think, story, if you will, around how to leverage a crisis, I guess. As Winston Churchill said, never waste a good crisis, right? Try to take advantage of it if you can, if you're positioned well enough, it'll help. So yeah, I was working with a electrical supply house, plumbing supply house in the Midwest during the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And as we were putting this, supply chain planning system in place, he kind of came to me one day and said, Jeff, I need your help because we're trying to borrow some money and the banks are not lending. We see some opportunity out there to make an acquisition of one of our key competitors that's in financial distress. And I can't get money from the bank. So I'm looking to see if I can get money out of inventory. Can you work with my team? Can we figure something out? And being able to tweak some of those, strategic dynamic safety stock settings and redeploy inventory and do some of that, postponement, risk pooling of inventory positions across the company, we were able to raise the millions of dollars he needed to make that acquisition, over 6 to 9 months of planning and execution through that crisis. They bought their competitor and became a much bigger, much more competitive company from that, one event.
Interesting. So inventory is not evil after all, huh?
That's right. That's right. Plenty of opportunity, and that's that's
Yeah.
that classic CFO story. Can I better manage my assets, right?
Yeah, and of course, you also address the idea of just bringing together finance and supply chain, each with its own metrics, having to somehow gel as a team. And I think that must be essential from your perspective, correct?
When I look at the advanced planning systems today and the progression that people have made, right? Even through my career, I started as demand planning manager, then S&OP planning manager, which evolved into international financial planning manager. So that connected planning all the way through. Bringing finance into that conversation, it's not so much anymore about right product, right place, right time, as much as it is, how do I best respond? What's the best financial impact? And having finance engage in that conversation to help align the operational plan with the strategic and financial plan is really a major advantage today. And being
Great.
able to have that
Great.
visibility in today's tools is pretty powerful.
Thank you for that, Jeff. I want to turn real quickly to a discussion about QAD Dynasys itself. Tell me about the company. What animal are you? What niche do you occupy in the market exactly?
Yeah, exactly. So the QAD Dynasty solution is just a classic cloud-based demand and supply chain planning S&OP platform, right? It is one of those modern tools today that's designed to support a company's S&OP maturity path from stage 1 to stage 3 to stage 5. The things that companies can leverage today, some of the things we're talking about, right? You look at the solution and how a company can plan better today, taking advantage of, it's a cloud-based system, right? Available 24/7 on the cloud, full collaboration capability, accessible on any device, any browser, 24/7 around the clock. The ability to take that and model the supply chain, right? Have that full visibility of the end-to-end supply chain in one planning model and see demand, supply balances instantaneously, run some scenarios in memory real time, and provide that planning capability. Embedded in there is all the core stuff. Things like your CPLEX iLog optimization. The calculations are there for optimization, but it's those soft benefits of the improved decision-making and things that come from better collaboration, better visibility. Analytics is key to everybody, right? Big data, analytics. Tools like QAD Dynasty today, your modern planning applications also have embedded analytics. We've embedded some of the leading edge analytics tools for insight and data visualization. For me, this is key. I don't know, Bob, everybody kind of learns and sees things differently. Everybody looks at numbers on spreadsheets to look for trends and patterns. I'm not so good at numbers. I need pictures, right? Graphs, data, visualization, bringing that to the dashboards, to the planner, to the people, to the executive sometimes can be a differentiating piece as well. And it just brings that total solution for, again, supply chain planning is really about making better decisions, faster decisions, responding more quickly. All of that really helps drive that home.
It's just amazing how sophisticated the technology has gotten in keeping pace with this immense amount of data that we are flooded with every day, and just makes supply chains so much more agile, at least the promise of becoming so much more agile than ever before. Jeff Livingston of QAD Dynasys, thank you so much for this conversation, talking about supply chain resilience in the planning domain, as well as a little bit about QAD Dynasys itself. Thanks very much for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Bob, my pleasure. Always fun talking shop with you. Thanks. Take care.